We're going to keep it simple this week and just continue cruising down the Rogue Subclass aisle. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam. Whether you want to snoop around or spook around, I'm here to help you with everything. Nothing too big this week. Once again, of course, I want to thank you all for watching the Attic Dungeon. I've hit the magical number of 400 followers. Tiny fireworks were lit inside the limited confines of my attic, which is also a dungeon. I know 400 is nothing in the grander scheme of YouTube, but to me it's another number with 2 zeros behind it, and it makes me quite happy. So if you haven't subscribed yet, don't hesitate to do so. Maybe someday I'll even reach 410, who knows. What else do I want to do in my intro? Oh, small shout out to the people of Game Master Worlds. I mentioned them a while ago. They are running their Kickstarter for their book Worlds at a Glance, which is a book that helps you dungeon masters very easily prepare towns, shops and other civilized areas on the spot. The book has loads of handy tables, there's extra cards you can order, whatever, lots of stuff, and it really does cut down on your time, your prep time as a dungeon master. The Kickstarter is running for, as I post this, 7 more days. They have already far exceeded their initial goal, so the product will be launched when the Kickstarter closes. So I'll post the link down below. Go and have a quick look and decide whether or not you want to support these wonderful Belgian people in the creation of their first large book. So yes, rogues. We already talked about a few subclasses, obviously. So today we're doing part 2 with the Mastermind, the Phantom and the Scout. I really like one of those, and the other 2 exist to me. Quick reminder, rogues still get their fun stuff from their subclasses at level 3, 9, 13 and 17. The level 3 bit usually has 2, sometimes even 3 features. So it's quite front loaded, it's ideal for multi-classing, and then you have to wait a hell of a long time before you get more stuff. So we'll dive straight into it with the Mastermind. Last time I talked about the detective, namely the Inquisitive. I just call him the detective now because that's what he is. The Inquisitive, who needs like a good surrounding to thrive in. He needs mysteries to solve. And the Mastermind kind of has the same thing going for them. The Mastermind is an excellent class when it comes to social intrigue and social shenanigans. I know the Inquisitive has a fair bit of that as well. They're really good at observing and listening, obviously. But this one is just really good at lying and covering their thoughts from mind readers, which is obviously very specific. So I'm absolutely convinced that this is not the strongest rogue subclass. It is probably one of the weaker ones, but it is really good at what it does and offers an interesting archetype to play. It does have a really cool mechanic with the help action, I think, which is really unique and good and can really help your party depending on how they are built. So let's just dive into their level 3 stuff. You get Master of Intrigue at level 3. This gives you proficiency with the Forgery Kit and the Disguise Kit. So here's your social stuff already coming into action. I think this is one of the only, if not the only subclass that gains access to Forgery Kit proficiencies. So that's fun, that's not bad. You also learn 2 languages of your choice and proficiency with a gaming set. So here you are. And there's a cool bit that if you hear someone talk in their native accent for at least a minute, you can flawlessly copy the accent and pass yourself off as someone from the same land, region, city, whatever that they are from. And I quite like this. It invites some creativity to breed familiarity with a person that you really don't know. It's an encouragement for social flexibility. If you've ever seen Firefly, River does this to Badger in Shindig. The bad guy is, if you don't know the show, the bad guy is keeping the ship hostage and the crew, so they can't go and help their captain. And one of the crew members flawlessly copies his accent to make him believe they're from the same planet and create a diversion, stuff like that. So there's stuff to be done with this, but this is a vague ability that you need to use. This is not just a press button, go boom ability, and that's the case for half of the Mastermind's abilities anyway. Second bit of level 3 is your Master of Tactics, and this is actually really cool. You can use Help as a bonus action. So Help is an action that can be used to grant advantage to an ability check of an ally or an attack of an ally. They have to be within 5 feet though, that's the idea. Well, especially with the attack. So for the ability check, that doesn't matter, you just have to be able to kind of see and support them vocally, I suppose. But for the attack, normally you have to be within 5-foot range, so standing next to them. But if you're using Master of Tactics, that increases to a 30-feet range. So that is actually quite a useful way to use your bonus action to grant advantage to other people. Obviously, your best candidate would be another rogue for granting sneak attack, since you can't help yourself. There's no self-help book for rogues, I'm afraid. But anyone who relies on large attacks or a wizard that is going to use an attack roll spell will surely be thankful for the advantage. And don't forget that outside of combat, this can be used to just grant advantage willy-nilly. So this is actually pretty strong on its own. People often forget the help action, and this subclass brings it into the light and makes it a good, reliable asset to your toolkit. And it's the only good, reliable asset for your toolkit when it comes to combat, when talking about the Mastermind. Next up, you have Insightful Manipulator. If you observe a creature for a minute, there's a lot of observing in this one. You can learn some information about it in relation to yourself. Is it the Battle Master also has, or the Samurai, one of the two also has something like this in the fighter, but for different things that you observe. This one observes the intelligence, wisdom, charisma score, or any class levels in relation to yourself. So Dungeon Master can say, yeah, he's more intelligent than you, oh, he's dumber than you, more charismatic, less charismatic, and I can give you an idea on how to approach them, which skills to use to efficiently target the opponent. So it's good, but again, it's a very niche social ability, but that is the entire kit of the Mastermind. You're great at manipulating social environments. That's basically the shtick here. And that brings us to the level 13 ability, Misdirection, which is going to bring into play another forgotten part of the rule set, namely everything that has to do with cover. If you look at the player's handbook, technically speaking, when an attack is coming for you and there's a creature in between you and the attack, the creature will grant you some form of cover. I think the Dungeon Master Guide even has an optional rule for deciding if the attack misses you to see if it hits your cover. Like, it grants you half cover, I think, and half cover is +2 armor class. This is weird that people don't use it. I suppose it's because they don't want to make combat more convoluted, but actually combat has been simplified quite a bit, so this should be used more. End small rule rant. But Misdirection says that when an attack is hitting you, actually you can just not even hit, you can, when you're being targeted by an attack, I'm going to rephrase it. When you're being targeted by an attack and there is a creature in between you and the attack, basically granting you half cover, you can use your reaction to redirect the attack towards the person granting you the cover. So there's two ways of using this. You can turn the fighter into the pincushion. You're being shot at by archers. You're standing next to the fighter who has a very high, very reliable armor class. Feel free to shift the attack their way. Or there's an enemy standing next to you who looks like a downright comfy pincushion for all the arrows fly, or the disintegration beams, who cares, flying at your face. Dope, just move it that way. Cool thing that this has no resource limit. I think that's the thing for the entire Mastermind. Niche abilities, but there's no resource limit. All of your abilities are just usable all the time. So this is one of those all night long type of builds. I like those. You don't have to count, you just have to shank and observe. And then there's Soul of Deceit, which is, I think, the most nichest level, like capstone ability that I've seen on a class. Basically, your thoughts cannot be read by telepaths, mind readers, what have you, unless you want them to. And even then, you can try to decept them, deception versus insight, check to feed lies to the mind reader. This is obviously super cool, and even Additionally, no one can determine whether you're telling the truth or not. Well, I'm going to say they can probably see it, but if people would use magic to see whether you are truthsome or not, or people force you to tell the truth by magic, there's a few spells who can do that, they cannot. You're immune to truth telling magic. And that is very niche. Immune to mind reading unless you want them to and you can feed them lies, and immune to truth magic. What the hell even? This is so very niche. Especially for you're level 17, the wizard gets wish and you can lie to people. Wow. I like the 13 one, but if it was me, if I ever played a Rogue to 13, if I ever played a Mastermind to 13, I probably would start multi-classing after that. This capstone is not worth hanging on to, unless you want the higher normal base Rogue stuff, of course, which is well worth taking, more sneak attack and what have you. But this subclass is meh outside of its environment, good inside its environment, but almost none of their tricks are combat related, and we all know that Dungeons and Dragons has a lot of combat, so it's a bit, discuss with your dungeon master what type of campaign you're playing before you pick the Mastermind. That's my basic advice. On to the Phantom, who has a really cool flavor that you know how to deal with death in a very literal way. I like to compare them to the Faceless Men from Game of Thrones, who have this temple dedicated to death, and not wanton meaningless death, but like death has to happen in a correct way, or you were influenced. I think one of the flavor blurbs from the book is you slept on a graveyard and discovered your new abilities. That's really random, but hey, that's another way of dealing with death. You have access to spirits, you can manipulate spirits and people's dying breath, which is a really cool concept. And whether it is because you just slept next to your great auntie's grave or because you're working for the Temple of the Faceless Man, that's up to you. They do get a lot of cool stuff though. First thing you get is Whispers of the Dead. When you finish a long rest, short or long rest, you can pick a skill or tool proficiency that you don't have, and now you do, because some spirit is sharing their knowledge with you. And that is fun, that is good. You can just fill in blanks in your skill sheet depending on where you are. Obviously, when you select another skill after a rest, the previous one disappears. And then there's Wails from the Grave, an ability that you can use a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier, and you require a long rest to reset it, so a resource to watch. If you shank something with your sneak attack, you can target a second target within 30 feet, so it doesn't have to be in melee range, and they will take damage equal to half the number of dice your sneak attack consists of. So if you roll, rounded up for a change, so if you roll 3 sneak attack dice at some point, then you hit someone with those, and then you can go like, that guy is taking 2d6 sneak attack as well, but it will be necrotic damage and not whatever damage your weapon is handing out. This fills in the gaps for something that rogues are traditionally terrible at, namely targeting multiple opponents. Rogues have very little ways of doing so, and this is an adequate way of doing so, even if it is limited in resources. It is not bad. At higher levels, your sneak attack reaches absurd numbers, and don't forget, if you crit, you double your sneak attack, so that's also an ideal moment to go like Wails of the Grave on that guy, because that guy will basically take normal sneak attack damage, and your first target is taking full sneak attack damage, so that's full stuff, fun stuff. I really like the level 9 ability, Tokens of the Departed. Basically, when somebody dies near you, and you have a free hand and a reaction. Important, the free hand, because this invites this rogue to work with a rapier, or not dual wield at least. You can kind of create a token that is related to the dead person. It's a bit of their essence that you materialize and you keep it on yourself. You can keep a bunch of trinkets equal to your, I forgot, but I'm going to assume it's proficiency modifier here. And you can't create more while you're full up. And there's 3 abilities that you can use or that you gain access to while having these tokens. First one is very simple. You get advantage on death saves and con saves as long as you have a token. You don't have to sack a token to trigger the advantage. As long as you have one of your tokens, you will always have advantage on con saves and death saves. And that is good. That is not bad. It is something that you get for free. I think you will almost always have one of those tokens on you. So that's good stuff versus poison, good stuff versus dying. Everybody loves not dying. Second one, if you sneak attack, yeah, that's the thing. If you sneak attack, you can destroy one of the tokens, I don't know, break it or whatever, to trigger Will from the Grave. So the thing that resets on long rests only can also be used by killing people, creating a token, mashing the token to stab them again with Will from the Grave, potentially creating another token. So with some good kill management in your party and proper usage of your own resources, the Will from the Grave ability that you gain at level 3 is going to see a lot more play. So this is actually a feature worth leveling up to level 9 for as a rogue. And the last one is that you can destroy a token that you have anywhere, which I find funny. The other ones have to be on your person, but this one just has to be somewhere, to ask the spirit related to the token a single question. They will speak in their own languages. They do not have to be truthful to you, so it's a bit of a gamble depending on how well you know that person. But at least you got some way to speak to the dead, which is always fun. Level 13 gives you Ghost Walk. Basically, it makes you a little bit floatier. You gain a flying speed of 10 feet. You can hover. Your attack rolls have disadvantage against you. That makes a lot more sense. You can move through creatures and obstacles, but you'll take damage if you stop in one, obviously. You can do this 10 minutes. You can always end it as a bonus action. And you must either finish a long rest or, you've guessed it, destroy one of your tokens. So that's easy. You can reset this action as well with your tokens. Basically, the way the subclass works is each of your actions can be used a number of times, limited, but as long as people are dying around you, you can reset all of your resources. And I think it might invite murder hobo stuff, I know, but it's a really cool way to fuel your actions. And the last one, Death's Friend. Basic stuff, if you finish a long rest and you have no tokens, you'll get a token. And the other thing, if you use Wells from the Grave, you can deal the bonus damage, so the half sneak attack damage, both to the original creature and the creature you were targeting with Wells of the Grave. So that's fun. The first creature is going to get sneak attack and a half. A second creature will get half sneak attack. If you crit, that means the original creature will get 3 times sneak attack and the other one will get a normal sneak attack to the face, which is good stuff. This one does damage, has some utility, deals more damage. This is more combat focused, but I think the flavor and the interrogating dead people is a really cool niche, and you can pick up any skill that you like. I really like this one. I think it is a very capable rogue subclass. Period. It will allow you to do things in any campaign. It is not dependent on what you're playing, since even if people are not dying, and when aren't they, you'll still have access to your features. Just the more death, the more stuff you'll be doing, the more ghosting and killing mainly. So yeah, there's that. And then we have the Scout, another subclass that exists. The idea is really simple and really cool and very roguelike. You are a scout, you explore ahead, you warn the party of danger. It's a very basic, I didn't know this had to be a subclass kind of rogue, because these are things that a rogue can do. I suppose it gives a bit ranger vibes without the magic, I guess, but you'll notice that the abilities are except for the last one, which is pretty good but needs setup. So, what do you get? Skirmisher, starting at level 3, obviously. If an enemy moves close to you, you can use your reaction to move half your speed, and it won't provoke opportunity attacks. So you have mobility, and that's really good because you have mobility as a trigger to enemy movement. You can move at the last possible moment, and that is pretty cool. You can calculate, see if it's worth it, move away. That's pretty good, even if it is your reaction, and you can use that to sneak attack as well. Having a way to escape when you're not the sturdiest class in the game is good. You get proficiency in nature and survival, which makes sense since you're the Ranger Light, and these also act as if you have expertise, basically. It didn't list it, but it does say your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability checks that make use of either of these proficiencies. So you don't necessarily have expertise, but you do have expertise. I don't know how it appears on character sheets. Maybe it indicates is that expertise. That would be easy. Otherwise, I would have had to check that, but you can't double expertise anyway. You're good at these things. Number 9, underwhelming if you compare to the Phantom, who juggles death like it's nothing. This one gets 10 feet extra speed, and that also increases climbing and swimming speeds if you have any. Obviously, this is okay because it increases your skirmisher ability to run away as well, but 10 feet as opposed to control over half of death is kind of underwhelming. It's equally impressive as the Masterminds. I can observe someone and see how good they are, kind of thing. Oh well. Ambush Master at 13 is decent-ish. It helps your party, and that's nice. So first off, you have advantage on initiative rolls, which is always fun. Going first allows you to position yourself to take out an essential target. That's always good stuff. And the first creature that you hit during the first round of combat, so only during the first round, will be easier for others to strike. Attack rolls against the creature will have advantage. So not only do you have advantage, it's on initiative. It's super important that you go first now, because you can basically mark a target for certain death. You're like, yeah, this guy has to die, and then the fighter and the barbarian can come in and go like, whoa, and the thing's dead. Which is cool. Again, if your party relies on attack rolls, it's kind of the same as with the bonus help action for the Mastermind. If your party uses attack rolls, this is going to see use. There's no resource to it. It's only in the first round. If you look at the larger rogue, it obviously stands against the assassin, who likes to go first in round 1 and can basically kill someone. This one can go first and will indicate someone that will die, which is good. Coordinate your team, indicate danger, scout ahead. It's flavorful. It works as a flavor, but mechanically it's okay, you know. Free advantage for up to like how many people you have in your party is good stuff. And then Sudden Strike. This is the one that I'll have to read again while I'm explaining it, because it gets me confused. So if you take an attack action, you can make an additional attack as a bonus action. I hear you think, oh, but isn't that what 2-weapon fighting does? Yes, but here you can obviously do it with a bow or with a rapier, so with larger weapons. That's good, it's more damage, and it's an extra attack. Huzzah, I guess. Also, it doesn't need you to have the 2-weapon fighting style to add bonus damage from your ability score, so this is inherently better than 2-weapon fighting at level 17. Huzzah. The second attack can also trigger sneak attack. Huzzah! But not on the same creature as your first attack. So the good news is this makes the rogue an ideal, capable of hitting multiple targets again. But here we are, you're dealing an attack and sneak attack to a second target at level 17, and the Phantom is doing half sneak attack at level 3. And will increase that later on to the primary target. I mean, this works. This is not a bad ability, having an extra sneak attack, but this is obviously better for ranged rogues. Melee rogues might struggle in finding a second target, except if they're wielding a dagger. You can always just fling a dagger to a second target. That's good stuff. But a full melee rogue, if for some reason you picked up dual wielding feat and you're wielding 2 rapiers like the badass that you are, you might have trouble locating a second target. And obviously against bosses there's no big use for this, except for the part that you do get a second attack, but you're dual wielding, you'd already have a second attack. You see, I think this might work with a dueling fighting style. You just take one weapon and whack. There's ways to make this work. It's not the most overwhelming level 17 ability, but it's better than the Mastermind one. So today's subclasses basically rank Mastermind, Scout, Phantom by a large margin, in my personal opinion. And that's all I do here. I spite personal opinions, and when they're done, I retreat. And that is what I will do now. So I'll be more than happy to read your comments about today's subclasses in the comments down below. And if all goes well, I'll see you again in 2 weeks in the Attic Dungeon.